that the extent to which the federal government is attempting in good faith here to prioritize and to focus on the commercial entrepreneurs, that's the most that you should expect.
Well, we agree on this, that we're far from a perfect world. How to fix it, we may not agree on. Our organization and most medical marijuana advocates agree that it's not a perfect system. There are flaws in the system, and that's why we have consistently been pushing for greater regulation. The Attorney General is something we've been asking for years, and we helped the Attorney General draft those guidelines, and so we think greater regulation is a good thing. The problem is when you have federal interference, it makes it more difficult to be able to regulate yourselves. All we've been saying in the state of California is that we can regulate ourselves. We don't need the feds coming in here and regulating us. That makes the system even less perfect. There may be doctors who just phone it in, and the California Medical Board should investigate that and regulate that. But the fact that there may be a few flaws in the system, the fact that there may be some patients who get this who maybe shouldn't be getting this medicine, it's like OxyContin. It doesn't mean you just throw out the baby with the bathwater. It doesn't mean you deprive AIDS patients of this medicine that helps them eat, or cancer patients with this medicine that helps them eat. Yes, there are flaws in the system, but that's not a good enough reason to go after legitimate.
But the Attorney General has suggested here that there are certain indicia of unlawful operation. I'd like to know, what is the trade group? That you consider yourselves to be a trade group.
No.
All right. What is the organization then of the cannabis clubs or the dispensaries in the state and so on? What are they doing? What are they undertaking to regulate themselves, to identify what may be some of the indicia of unlawfulness, so that before it gets to the case of whether or not there's a prosecution, the industry itself is ensuring that only those people who are scrupulously adhering to the guidelines stay in business? Because the indicia are very clear. Any dispensary, storefront dispensary, that has excessive amounts of marijuana, excessive amounts of cash, fails to follow local and state laws applicable to similar businesses, such as maintenance of any required licenses and payment for required taxes, including sales tax, has weapons on the premises, other illicit drugs, purchases from or sells or distributes to non-members, or distributes outside California, those are all indicia of unlawful behavior. Those are the kinds of things that would clearly indicate, both to a state law enforcement officer as well as to a federal law enforcement officer, that what we're looking at is a commercial dispensary and not a cooperative or collective. And so it's a simple thing. You want to show good faith on your part that you're scrupulously attempting to comply with the guidelines you say you helped write, because the federal government didn't help write these, then where is the proactive effort?
Well, and I know there have been some attempts for dispensaries to organize into something like a trade union, or however you want to describe it. That's something I would find very welcome. Of course, we would like to see dispensaries regulate themselves and encourage each other to comply with these guidelines. The problem, once again, is the federal government. You can't form a trade union of dispensaries, because that is asking, effectively, for the federal government to come in and bust you. You don't know if any of the members of the union is an undercover DEA agent who has nothing better to do.
No, I suggest to you that you can't form the trade organization because, in fact, you're all commercial enterprises. And therefore, you're in violation of the guidelines. If you were collectives and cooperatives, you were limiting the amount that you possessed, the amount that you grew, to those people who were signed up specifically for that cooperative or collective. Very few, if any, of the 300 dispensaries in the state would be in compliance.
I mean, that's your opinion. Obviously, we strongly disagree. I would love to see your evidence to justify that.
Well, it's kind of what the Attorney General said in his press release that accompanied the issuance of the guidelines. He said he doubted, this is a quote from him here, for-profit medical marijuana dispensaries in the state are likely operating illegally, opening the way for local police to join federal authorities in shutting down such enterprises.
What was the beginning of that, Joe? I'm sorry.
Attorney General Jerry Brown said Monday that for-profit medical marijuana dispensaries, which are virtually all of these in the state, are likely operating illegally, opening the way for local police to join federal authorities in shutting down such enterprises.
And what's the title of the article that you're reading from?
This is the Associated Press report accompanying.
I'm sorry, I'm just asking for the title.
It says, Brown, some Medipot dispensaries may be illegal.
I mean, I think
By
that's
Paul Elias,
Yeah,
Associated Press writer.
I mean, I think that's
Dated August 26, 2008, the date that the guidelines were issued.
Yeah, I think that's a far cry from saying that the Attorney General says that either the majority or all illegal.
Well, what he said is that those that are for-profit dispensaries, which are virtually all of the dispensaries that are operating storefronts in the state of California.
I mean, we disagree on the...
So we've got about 10 minutes left. Why don't we take some questions? Oh, my gosh. Let's just sort of start here and work our way across, all right? So yours, and then up there, and then here, and then we'll move.
Have there been several instances in which federal law enforcement has gone in and shut down cooperatives or collaboratives, seized material there, but not made any arrests and did not follow through with prosecution? March 26th in San Francisco.
Talking about Immolen?
Yes.
I'm not going to discuss any pending cases.
Well, over the past several years, have there been patterns of these seizures?
Well, are you a lawyer? Law student? A lawyer. A lawyer?
No, I'm
You're a reporter. All right. Well, then I guess this is for your edification. There are steps in an investigative process that include preliminary steps not necessarily relating to arrest. Search warrants, for example. There's no guarantee that with the execution warrant that an arrest will necessarily follow. That's as far as I can take that.
Yeah, we refer to them as smash and grabs, and there's been probably close to 100.
What a surprise you would call them that.
Well, and it's not uncommon, right? The news today reported that there was a search warrant executed in that Tracy kidnapping and then murder of that young girl. I assume people here are prepared to accept that this happens, even though there's been no arrest. So, I mean, it's not unusual to have a search warrant executed without arrest.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, murder hurts people, and marijuana doesn't. Well, that's the dispute, right? I mean, well, and so here's the question I want to ask, but I'm afraid you'll incriminate yourselves. How many people here are users of marijuana? Right. And how many people here are lying right now by not raising their hand? Because you have no medical use. I mean, Joe, I got to ask you this question. Isn't the medical marijuana campaign accompanied by a lot of people who want to legalize marijuana for everybody?
Of course. It's a pretext.
No, I'm asking the other Joe.
215
I'm
was a
asking the other Joe.
Well, I was glad when you said you were going to ask me a question. I was afraid if you were going to ask me if I've ever used marijuana.
Well, no, the president has used marijuana, right? So we can all say that.
I mean, of course, there are going to be a lot of people within the medical marijuana community who would like to legalize marijuana outright, but that's not a reason to say that the whole thing is a sham. There are many extremely legitimate patients, and I have met them. Every one of these folks who's legitimate medical marijuana patients in California has a doctor's approval to use marijuana for medical use. And we're lawyers, and I don't think it should be up to us to decide, does this person have a legitimate medical use?
Well, there isn't any criteria. If it's any other illness for which marijuana provides relief and there is no pharmacology, scientific evidence that it really has any efficaciousness, then it's really on the basis of whatever the doctor thinks in his own value judgment or scheme of things, and whatever the patient says might be helpful. I mean, we have Marinol.
And I would still trust the doctor more than the lawyer.
Tetrahydrocannabinol can be used in a legitimate form in a tablet called Marinol. There are all of the same, the alleged benefits of marijuana are the tetrahydrocannabinol component. Well, that is what little science there is, madam, at this point. And the fact of the matter is that people who want marijuana dispensed to them don't want to take it in pill form. They want to smoke it. Now, with all of the rest of what we know about how dangerous